stays out there and doesn't come back. So if you can't hold the wires off the ground, which is kind of hard to do, unless you stable them to a fence or something, all right, or tack them to trees, things like that. So if you can't do that, make the wire longer and put more of them in multiple directions. The whole point is to change that capacitive reactance of that antenna to make the energy stay out there. W2ADX for identification. Are there any late check-ins to the net? All right, we'll go for a minute or two or three more. All right, so we talked about the difference between a counterpoise and when we talk about elevated radials are that box is flying up in the air and you're building a ground plane, elevated radials. When you've got radials that are elevated off the ground, slightly elevated off the ground, and they do not connect to ground in any way, like I said, they're completely insulated wires, you're building a counterpoise. One important thing, the geometry of your antenna matters. If you're putting a simple sloper, or you're trying to make an inverted V, or an inverted L, etc., the geometry matters. You should never ground the antenna at that feed point. Now, lots of folks have taken that counterpoise terminal and dropped the ground rod and connected it right there. On 80 and 160, it's going to work just great, absolutely just great. However, unless that antenna is long enough, and I mean in the 150 to in the 200 foot range, it'll never tune back on 20 and 15 and 10. You just won't have the harmonic to do that. Once that ground is out there, you've changed the entire structure of that antenna. You've changed everything. So at that point, you've built a standard 160 meter inverted L-type antenna that has a very high impedance at the base, probably 2,000 to 5,000 ohms at the base, and now you've got a ground out there. That's probably the worst thing you could do, because remember, this thing that you're building is a dipole, and what you've just done is you grounded the middle of the dipole, which is why that doesn't work. On 80 and 160, on 160 you probably will never ever notice this because it likes that ground. But on the other bands, it'll never work.